Hello friends, welcome to Breakfast with Sergio. This is episode number 37. And I'm here with none other than Luis Martin. Luis is joining us all the way from New York. Good morning, Luis. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing good. Thank you for joining Breakfast with Sergio. And today, my friends, we're going to talk about building a strong community base using email. So that's the topic for this morning. Episode number 37 of Breakfast with Sergio, building a strong community base using email. And that's something that, Luis, you have done for quite a bit. And as a quick introduction, Luis is an amazing artist. He does painting, collage. He's a curator as well. He is also a community guy like me. We love to engage with people. You love to travel as well, and many other things, and working with community and culture. So, Luis, a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit who you are, whatever I have missed.
I think you got it in a nutshell. But yeah, at the moment, I'm really focusing on creating a body of work of collages that explore new mythology, that explore new narratives, and really taking what the social media, what media gives you, and giving it a meaning that you attribute to it instead of the other way around, it telling you what to think. So I've been playing around a lot with imagery and great collages and having fun doing that.
Super cool. All right, Luis. So since we're here in Breakfast with Sergio, you have to let us know what you're having for breakfast this morning. So what's your breakfast? What did you bring?
So I'm annoyingly healthy. I have oatmeal.
Oh, very good. Awesome.
Monday through Friday. And of course, you can't go without your coffee. So.
You are a coffee drinker from what I remember. That's right. Well, today I brought crepes, which I made over the weekend. Yeah, crepes. What I like to do is, like, on Sundays, I like to get up early and do a big batch of crepes, maybe a couple dozen. And then what I love about crepes is that you can fill them up with whatever you want, either savory or sweet. So today I made them sweet inside. I love peanut butter, so I put a little bit of peanut butter inside. I put then jelly and natural jelly that we buy here from a local store, and blueberries, and then apple slices on the side. And that's just a great way to to get something quick, but it's still good because it's homemade crepes. And that's why I love crepes, because they are so flexible in what you can do with them. And so one of these days I'll share my recipe of my crepes.
Yeah, please. Or if you have a delivery service, send me one.
That's right. So, Luis, again, for those friends who are joining right now, we have a lot of friends right now in Instagram and also in Facebook. Welcome, everybody. We are going to talk about building a strong community base through email, which is something that I really, among many other things, I admire of Luis Martin, who's joining us all the way from New York this morning, live here. And Luis, you have an email newsletter that you have been using for quite a while, and I get a lot of email newsletters from artists, but yours is quite is one of those that I always enjoy reading. It's always straight to the point. There's not a whole lot of verbiage that just blah blah blah, but it's straight to the point. It's concise. It's beautifully made as well. The aesthetics of it, looks like you pay a lot of attention to it. And you always have great information, a great way to language that you use to keep people engaged through that. So that's what we're going to talk about. Maybe give some tips on what artists can do to do the same. As we connect with the audience through email, how what kind of the things we can do to keep it live, to keep it fresh. Because a lot of times artists say, well, I don't know what else to say in my email. I don't just want to send an email without nothing. So. Maybe you can give us some insight. So, Luis, how long you been building your base through email?
I've been doing it for a while, but it wasn't until very recently that I actually counted the years. At the moment, I am in an art show in North Carolina with someone who I met and who became part of my email list 5 years ago.
Wow.
So, thinking, wow, I've had communication with so many people, and it goes back that long, which isn't a long time, but it is a long time, considering that it's something that you do without instant gratification. There's rarely any likes or any replies when you send your newsletter. It's not until much later. So 5 years plus.
Very cool. And one of those things, like, a lot of people now, because we're also focusing so much on social media, as you mentioned, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. But the emails still are very important. And, it's one of those things that I always say, anything may happen to any social media, come and go, but your email list is your email list, it's your contacts, it's you are not borrowing somebody else's playground to stay connected with your community.
Absolutely. You know what it is? It's something that you really can't buy. You can't buy this type of support, this type of network.
Hmm.
On Facebook, you can press your likes, you can put a great image, but you compete with so much. When you have your email list, these are people who are invested in you. And in some way or the other, you're invested in them, and you know that they want to see what you have to show and hear what you have to say. So you can't get that, you can't buy that or buy pushes for that.
Exactly. So, Luis, why don't you give us some tips of what we can do to keep our email engaged and to keep our email interesting for our audience? What are some of the things that you do? Like, first, let's start with how often do you send out emails? Do you have a specific time frame, or is it when something special is happening?
Sure. So that's huge, right? Consistency. You have to be really consistent. I run the gamut. Sometimes I send something every month. Sometimes I send it every other week. I try not to be too spammy because I know people get
Right.
flooded. But I usually have something going on. So at least once a month for sure.
Okay.
And that's really important. And if not, every other week, just sending new collages that I'm doing and just really trying to share.
Great. Wonderful, wonderful. And we have a lot of friends who are joining right now. They've been joining. So we're talking about building a strong community base here with our friend Luis Martin, artist from New York. And, he's giving us some tips, some advice on how he manages his email list, which is a pretty awesome way to stay connected with your audience and to stay engaged and to tell them what's happening. So, give me some tips. What we can do to make our email kind of interesting in terms of how do you talk to the people through your email list? Do you make it formal? Do you make it in the third person, first person? What do you do? Do you want to make it sound like it's you on the other side? Tell us a little bit about that.
I remember starting to do the email list and being really concerned about, wait, should it be third person or should it be first person, or does it make me look better if I do it third person? It's really confusing. And I think especially when you're young, you're starting, or not young, just starting, or you're out of school, you want to sound as professional as you can.
Right.
But I don't think you have to create that barrier of being a third person. I think you can do it just your voice, your narrative. And it's really about knowing who your community is, right? Some people are into oversharing. Some people do want to know everything about you, and some people don't. For me, I'm really interested in kind of, like you mentioned earlier, kind of getting to the point. It's next week at this time. You're invited. You're really important. Please come. Mm-hmm. And that's the gist of it. Mm-hmm. But I think knowing how to talk to who you want to listen to, so I know for mine, I try to just be as professional and as, kind of like I'm here and I'm out. But remember, because you're important to me. Mm-hmm. So that's my little tidbit there.
And I think something that I like that you said, you are important to me, and that's a thing where you can be very professional, but at the same time very personal in that way, right? You're speaking to your audience with in a professional way. You understand that they're busy people, and that's why I love reading your email when it comes in, because I know it's not gonna take me too long. I can go through the information rather fast, and so some of the things that you promote sometimes in your email list, like an event, right? Let's say you have an event coming up. So maybe we can give people some ideas on what things can be included on an email list that is engaging and interesting. So an event that you may have coming up, you just had an art fair that you participated on, so you were pretty busy on that. Also, when you travel, I love that when you do travel. Recently you went to Colombia, and then you sent also an email covering some of that too, which was pretty neat, because even though we're friends in social media, I missed it in social media, but I saw your email and I stopped to check it out, which was pretty neat. And then you also, the promotion of your art. So maybe tell us a little bit about those and maybe other things that you do.
Yeah, so when I think about the newsletter, I really think of it as like a bulletin board. Like, what would I want to know about my friends doing art, right? So it's not only about the important stuff, but it's more like the curious stuff, like the interest stuff, right? I even considered adding playlists or adding, I just saw this movie, it's fantastic. But I keep it centered to my voice, right? So when I do travel, I mention it because I get a lot of inspiration and I take a lot of pictures and I use it in my collages for my work. So it's relevant. My traveling is relevant to my work. Okay. And also a really important thing is kind of creating a chain. My next newsletter will have something to do with the art fair that I just did, just as a thank you to everybody that came in. Some reports like, this sold, this didn't, or this is a great conversation that I had. And that, I think that's really engaging, because there's continuity, and I think that's really cool.
Right. Awesome. Well, we're getting some questions here through both Instagram and Facebook, so I'll read a couple of them. You can help us answer that, Luis. One of them is your email newsletter, what is it? Is it only about your business and advice, or you also cover sometimes other events that may be happening? Or is it just related to kind of what you're doing?
Usually it's just related about what I'm doing, just to keep it consistent. So I was talking to someone about this yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm making work, it's magic. When the collector or the buyer gets their work, it's magic. In between, it's all business. And you kind of have to flex your muscles there. So my newsletter is part of my business aspect. So I have to be brand consistent. I don't want to put something as passionate as I am about a concert.
Mm-hmm.
No. If it's something that I feel passionate like a charity, then yeah, go for it, totally. Because it's part of your brand, it's part of what makes you you.
Mm-hmm.
So keep it business-like and consistent to a nice voice.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you guys for sending the question. Another question here from Olga says, in terms of language, what is the difference between your blog, email, or newsletter?
You try to say it in 3 sentences at most. So, a good paragraph is just the subject, the verb, the whatever, just keeping it, the when, or the what, when, and where, and even a why. Like, why am I doing this? Oh, it's a great group show with other artists who do similar work. We're exploring things that I care about. That's
right. It's very cool.
And then the most important thing really is the visual, because you're a visual artist. So put a really nice image of your work, of the process, and I think that engages people. If you were a singer, I'd say add a link to your music.
Right.
So keep it consistent.
And in terms of what platform do you use? Do you use MailChimp or Constant Contact? Which one do you use?
So I use Wix. I've been using Wix for a really long time, and they never cease to amaze me because they always come up with new things, and it's really easy. I'm not the techiest person, so it's really user-friendly.
Very cool. And there are so many platforms out there, right, that our friends can try. I've been, for example, using MailChimp, which I really like too, and I know many other people use it, or Constant Contacts, other people use it, and there's so many other ones that I don't remember, but the main point is to use one and to have it and to work. So now I've never used Wix. So with Wix, do you have to have a website with Wix in order to have the marketing part of it, or?
I believe so. So this is the
thing. So it came with your subscription?
No. You have to pay extra. But this is the thing with Wix. So like I said, I'm not very tech savvy. But when you have a website with Wix, you have to obviously download all of the pictures and all of the elements that you're going to use on your website.
Okay.
And you have the emailing part of it. You have access to those same images already downloaded. So it helps you be consistent and have a newsletter that matches your website so people don't get confused.
Oh, that is awesome.
Which is really cool. And then another thing which helps is it shows you a report, your stats, which I don't know how to make ins or outs of it any other way, but Wix has a really simple way of saying, oh look, this person saw your email.
Right.
So it's just, who's active and who to reach out to next time you're doing something.
Right. Very cool. Now, Luis, tell us a little bit, maybe some stories that you may have or some good experiences sending through email in terms of selling work, or maybe you send an email with new work and one of your collector base saw it and contact, how does that has worked for you in the past?
So it's really interesting. My collectors are mostly in New York, and they're mostly people that I have a one-on-one relationship already. So most of my emails, most of my email communication is people who are outside of New York, and oddly enough, do reply. And that's the most amazing thing for me, because wow, someone's actually reading this and cares enough to reply. Because when you get these emails, you think, oh, it's a machine. You get that it's an actual person. So I do get sales from it, but I think most of my sales are one-on-one, but this supports that one-on-one. And it kind of keeps me in their forefront of oh right, this kid's doing something, this guy's doing something,
Right.
But for me, the newsletter, more than sales, means community and a really thriving conversation or dialogue.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the nicest things about email, which I use too, and it just helps you stay connected, like you say, stay in touch, stay visible. And one of the key things, and I don't know what your perspective on this, Luis, but I think when you're building your email list, what sometimes artists do is like they start adding emails from left and right, the people that they find, but sometimes, if you get a business card from a gallery, they have no idea, you just add them into your list. And I always, tell artists, if you really want people to read your email, it's gotta be people that know who you are, they actually want to be part of your email list, right? And that's, that's one of the things that keep me in touch with you, besides, being in social media and so on, just because I read your email and I know who you are, and so that there's that personal connection that I want to read the email versus an artist who has me in their email list, but I have no idea who they are.
Absolutely. So, that's a pro tip right there, right? So I cold call, I cold email everybody, right? If I'm, I just did an art fair, and I reached out to a lot of curators, a lot of people, and it's like throwing arrows, right?
Right.
And someone gets back to you, sometimes they don't. But when they do get back to you, and then you ask, thank you for responding to my email. Can I add you to my mail list? They're so impressed by that because everybody other artists that come in contact automatically just do it.
Right.
And people are kind of thrown aback and appreciate the fact that you're respecting their privacy, you're respecting their space. So I think that's a great tip.
Awesome. Very cool, Luis. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. I think you have given us some good advice, and I think that's something that every artist should have, an email list, and build one for the long term. It takes time to build a good list. You cannot build a list overnight unless you're spamming people left and right, but it's about making connections, making contacts one person at a time, start growing your email list. Your email list doesn't have to be, thousands of people. My email, actually, I have 2 email lists, and I don't know how you organize yours, but I have one that I call the VIP, and then the general list. The general list is just everybody that I meet and I want to be on my list, sign up for my website. And then the VIP is everybody who has either purchased a work or has shown really great interest, almost closing to buy a work, or has maybe met me at a reception and there was special connection, or it could be a director or a curator or somebody, other professional that has given me an opportunity or a show in some sort. So those my VIP list. Those are the ones that, I cater and I talk to them in a very specific way versus my general list. And that has helped me a lot over the years.
That's great. Yeah, I do that as well.
Yeah, but everyone can organize it however you want. You may have one list and then, work with that where you can recognize the people that are there, or you can segment it however else can work for you. But I think it's just the importance of maybe reminding today, if you haven't, great that I'm doing this episode of Breakfast because I have to create my email. I didn't send one last month, so I gotta send one this week. And so that's a good reminder. Sometimes you kind of forget, but it's good to have that and continue growing that community of people that follow you, that love what you do. And that's what it's all about, staying in touch. And like you say, being in front of them and say, hey, I'm still here, I'm still making art, this is what I'm making, just check it out, even if it's just for a few seconds. But you just never know when a person on the other side, might be ready to make the next move, whatever that may be.
Right, yeah, and remembering that it's a live and active thing that will develop over time. You're not married to a style. You can change it.
Exactly, yeah, that's right. You can change it around. You can tweak it around. You can try different platforms until you find the one that you like, find the voice that you want to give to your audience, and that's very important. So, Luis, I think we're wrapping it up. That way, you can go back to your oatmeal. I can go back to my crepes here, and we can have a good breakfast. So, thank you so much for being here. Now, tell us, where can our friends find you on social media or website and so on?
So on Instagram, I'm Art Engineer, and that's the best way to find me. And you can message me, I always message back. And my website is luismartinart.com.
Awesome, but definitely follow Luis on Instagram, the Art Engineer.
No, that was already taken. Just Art Engineer.
Oh, Art Engineer. Okay, just Art Engineer, and you can find there Luis Martin. You can follow him, follow his amazing work too that he makes, and super cool as well. Everything that you do, Luis. Keep us in touch, and thanks for being in Breakfast with Sergio.
Sergio, it was a pleasure.
Awesome.
Bye.
Awesome. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing breakfast too.